Welcome to East Coast Bias. You guys love a bunch of different East Coast sports teams that we discuss in depth on this show. I'm your co-host Christian, along with my co-host Jack and Dan. Today we'll be covering Jets and Giants recap. We'll talk Yanks losing to the Rays, and then we'll get into the Big Ten, preview some of the teams we all root for, mainly Penn State, Rutgers, and Maryland. Matos, Giants lose a close one to the Cowboys. Anything positive to take from this week?
I'd like to think that based on his post-game comments, Coach Judge got in Coach Garrett's ear a little bit and said, hey, let's be a little aggressive, especially against this awful back end of the Dallas defense. And it resulted in them getting not too aggressive, but a little bit more aggressive, led to some offensive success. So I guess that's a positive. It wasn't molasses slow like it's been the last couple of weeks.
Granted, I'm an outsider, but I thought that was the best called game I've seen the Giants have in gosh knows how long. I mean, Jason Garrett seemed to push all the right buttons play call wise. It just came up a player too short, but
it started out well, but as the game went on, it kind of got more rote and a little bit more formulaic. It seems like that's Garrett's thing, is that when he's scripting plays to open up, there's a lot more motion, a lot more play action, although they had an extreme amount of play action this week. But early on, he's kind of gadgety. And then as the game settles in, he kind of gets more formulaic and prehistoric, if you will. But it was a better game plan on the offensive side of the ball, that's for sure.
Yeah, better game
plan.
Win. They ran the ball well, I thought. Devontae Freeman looks good. Shocked how good he looks, actually. Still got the quickness that he had in Atlanta. But they just can't get away from making the big mistakes. 2 touchdowns called back, albeit on 2 kind of ticky-tack calls. But, without those 2 mistakes, they probably win the game.
Yeah, the run game with Freeman, early, again, like the play calling, opening up the playbook. Early, the run game looked really good. Late, it wasn't as good. Resulted in Freeman only getting 3.5 yards per carry, which is really not very impressive whatsoever. I think it was 17 carries for 60-some yards or something of that nature. It wasn't overall very impressive, but Freeman looks like he's kind of getting into the swing of things, and I would look for the next couple of weeks him to have some much better games, hopefully better averages when he's getting the ball. But also look like a threat out of the backfield, too, catching the ball.
Yeah, Freeman made enough guys miss that his average would have been 2.9 if he hadn't made some of those cuts. He looked pretty spry. Why is Dion Lewis on this team? Christian, you said that on Sunday, I think. Strange signing. They don't use him at all.
I don't know. It seems to be your classic case of GM and head coach not being on the same page. They went out, gave him a pretty good contract, but he's not being used at all. I mean, he's getting passed by guys off the street and Wayne Gallman, who's not very good.
Wayne Gallman just seems like another guy to be a guy, but
yeah.
It may have been the case that they, brought him in, had an idea of how to use him. Saquon goes out, their idea goes out the window, and then they find Freeman essentially on, I won't call it the scrap heap because I think that's a little bit rough on Freeman. And then Freeman just completely changed the calculus for them, and now they don't have any use for Lewis because they're using Freeman the way they wanted to use Barkley and maybe the way they wanted to use Lewis. That's kind of the way it seemed to me as the game went on.
Yeah, and you look at the other side of the ball. Defense played well early, fell apart late, but, it got some guys stepping up on that side. Kyle Fackrell, great game. Tough to lose Lorenzo Carter, but, Golden, who, is getting more snaps now because of that. Obviously, Golden really struggled against the run, but – we saw him in there with the pass rush that he had last year, which was good to see. James Bradbury continues to just be an absolute stud. Cowboys wouldn't even throw the ball to Amari Cooper because Bradbury was all over him. But they just fell apart late.
Anybody see this weird stat on Amari Cooper, by the way? His percentage of plays has gone from 93 to 82 to 71 to 63 in 4 weeks.
No,
I did not see that.
Saw that today. No reason why he appears to be healthy.
Yeah, maybe he's got an undisclosed injury.
Yeah, something. CD's playing well, but yeah, his percentage of time on the field dropping precipitously. Who knows why?
Interesting.
Bradbury was the best defensive player on the field for either team on Sunday.
He absolutely was. Blake Martinez had another, although he had a big whiff on, speaking of Amari Cooper's late catch and run. Martinez had a whiff on the tackle there. Blake Martinez overall had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
But, the Giants' struggles come back again to who is their second inside linebacker behind Blake Martinez and who is the second cornerback. It's the second cornerback spot especially is just, next guy, come on down. It's the price is right. Free agents off the street. This guy, Ryan Lewis, who apparently was a Joe Judge guy, he's now failed even though he looked decent last week. Maybe they bring that guy in that they signed off the practice squad for the Raiders to now be the new CB2 for the Giants, but they are just completely lost when it comes to trying to find somebody opposite Bradbury.
Well, yeah, really the whole secondary after Bradbury is just a dumpster fire.
Fair point.
And bottom line, this team, they just don't have talent. If you guys will indulge me, I brought some stats to the show this week.
Stats.
Homework.
I'm going to read you. Let's go through from 2015 through 2020, the Giants' first, second, and third round picks.
Oh.
So 2015, they take Eric Flowers, Landon Collins, and Owa Odigizua. 2016, they take Eli Apple, Sterling Shepard, Darian Thompson.
1 out of 3.
2017,
Half out of 3.
Evan Ingram, Dalvin Tomlinson, and quarterback Davis Webb. 2018, they
1
take
out of 3
Saquon
again.
Barkley, Will Hernandez, and Lorenzo Carter, and B.J. Hill, 2 third-round picks this year. Last year, Daniel Jones, Dexter Lawrence, DeAndre Baker, all first-round picks, no second-round pick because they traded up. Then they take O'Shane Zimenez in the third. And this year, Andrew Thomas, Xavier McKinney, Matt Pert. So that's 20 names I just read to you from the past 5 years. That should be the absolute core of this team. Of those 20 names, I can come up with, let's leave Saquon out of it with the injury. Of those 19 names, I can come up with one guy who's an above-average player, Dexter Lawrence. The other 18 guys are either not on the team or they suck.
Tomlinson's not bad, right?
Yeah, Dalvin, that was harsh. That was harsh on Tomlinson. I can't say he's above. He's an average player.
But you're talking about two guys who play the same position.
The exact same position, right? Exactly.
I mean, that is atrocious. I looked at that today. I could not believe how bad that is. I mean, that right there is all you need to know. That's why this team is terrible. The 20 first through third round picks the last 5 years, they have 2 players, Saquon Barkley, Dexter Lawrence, and we'll hope Daniel Jones turns into a player. But other than that, we already know Andrew Thomas is a bust.
Speaking of guys in the
Flowers part 2.
Yeah, speaking of guys in the Giants backfield, my goodness, he spent a lot of time getting pushed into running backs. Holy shit.
And with the advantage,
he just gets bull rushed backwards is his first problem. I've never seen a stud left tackle get pushed around so much.
Well, you saw it with Eric Flowers, unfortunately.
The scouting report on him was, nasty streak when it comes to the run game, more of a, step right in and be a run game lineman, needs development in the pass game. Based on the run game results for the Giants so far this year, looks like that was a complete.
Well, he's definitely a better run blocker than a pass blocker because he's not.
That's not really saying much at all. So he's and having the advantage of having the first tackle to be picked. Gettleman reached for Thomas, and it looks like he's the worst of the big 4 tackles in this year's draft.
SEC State School hog molly. That's why. That's what Dave Gettleman likes.
They love Georgia guys. They love Georgia guys.
There's got to be 3rd, 4th, 5th round tackles who are playing better than he is.
Well, why don't they put Pert? Why don't they try Pert at left tackle and move Thomas to right tackle and try that for a couple weeks?
It may come to that very soon. I'll tell you what.
Squeeze some juice out of that.
Pert, I know Pert played a series last week. I didn't see him out there for any series this week, and I didn't see any news reports about it.
Although
the beats were all over it last week.
Matt Pert played at UConn, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, just crazy that the Giants could, they might have to try a guy who played under Randy Edsall in the UConn program to protect their bonus baby quarterback's blind side.
They got Solder coming back next year at this rate.
Okay. Oh, is he still under contract next year?
Yeah, he opted out.
Okay.
at like a prohibitive amount. They can't even let him go, even if they wanted to, based on how much he's supposed to make next year. The thing about this team is that, and that dearth of talent resulting from those whiffs and horrible picks in the first 3 rounds over the last 5 years kind of exemplify it. That they don't have that much talent. We've talked about it previous weeks. And they're a team that's set up that has to play a perfect game to even come close to winning. I mean, I guess you could call that as close to a perfect game as they're going to get. And they still lost at the last second to the Cowboys. Everything has to break right for this team to be able to win, and it's just not happening. Judge, maybe he's the guy. I don't know. His players seem to believe in him. But this team has really been screwed over by Dave Gettleman last couple of years. Last year's the Jerry Reese didn't really help either, but some would argue that he should have been gone a few years before he was let go.
Reese and Gettleman picks that I read you.
So it was. It's so it's plain to see when you watch the team. They just don't have talent. They don't.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at that track record, I mean, you understand why they're the worst team in football.
And how the owners can stand back and watch this.
Worst team in football.
The Giants have the worst record.
They do.
Yes. We're in the spot. We're in that number 1 catbird spot right now.
For
so
3 years
we are the worst team. Can't take that away from us.
Yeah, if the Giants both lose out, the Giants will maintain that advantage most likely and they'd pick first or ahead of the Jets if that were to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think when you look at, I mean, it's just so hard to, who knows on Joe Judge? Like, I mean, this team just sucks. They have no talent, and I'm not sure Bill Belichick could win many games with this team. So, for me, it's just, at this point, Joe Judge is the guy. You can't keep changing coaches.
Right.
Because you have a coach who's trying to build something, and then you can't fire him and bring in another guy, and he is trying to build something completely different.
Right.
At this point, you just got to let Joe Judge be the coach for 5 years and hope he has a plan.
But now the pressure is on. If you're going to fire Gettleman and bring in a new general manager, you got to find a general manager who sees eye to eye with Joe Judge, despite the fact that general manager didn't hire Judge. So it's just a weird dynamic, and I get the feeling the Giants are going to be chasing after this odd cycle until they finally loop together and they can fire a GM and coach all at once and try to rebuild this thing.
Before we move on to any Jet sadness, can we talk about the Washington football team quarterback situation? Just because I get a little bit of joy about talking about it. No matter what that franchise does or what they try or who they hire or who they play or who they sign, it always ends up going to shit in the most public and messy way, no matter what they try. They hire Ron Rivera, to try and clean things up, and then all this news comes out, and then unfortunately, of course, Coach Rivera gets sick on top of that. But it's just hilarious to me that they go out, they draft a quarterback that the coach didn't want, they let that coach go, now he's laughing, they bring in a new guy, now they got a guy, Alex Smith, he's got a bionic leg, he's got Aaron Donald on his back. They don't put Kyle Allen back in the game. Now Dwayne Haskins might be traded within 2 weeks. I don't know. Just
the whole situation. It gives me joy.
It gives me a little bit of joy watching the Snyder organization do this stuff.
Still, they've won more games than the Giants the past 3 years.
It's true. And if they come into MetLife and beat the Giants, I think the Giants just basically have to cancel the rest of the season and just pretend they got COVID and fold up shop and just be done with it because. I guess Allen is going to be starting for them this week.
Former Texas A&M Aggie Kyle Allen is, if he's healthy, which apparently he is.
If they lose to Kyle Allen and this woe-begotten Washington football team, it's over. It's over. 0-16 is a real possibility if they lose this game on Sunday for the Giants.
All right, before we move on to the Jets, let's make our prediction for this week. Giants take on the Washington football team at MetLife.
Who had the high point total for the Giants last week? Who was the winner there? I think it was Christian, wasn't it?
I believe I did, yeah.
I think I said 10 points. I think I said only one touchdown.
I had 20. I had like 34-24.
I had 17, I think.
You did call a defensive touchdown too, Jack. So kudos to you.
I watch enough Dallas ball to know what's going to happen.
All right, Batos, prediction for this week.
I am going to say 17-13 Giants win.
Jack.
kind of thinking about the same numbers there. I don't want to bite on it, but yeah, I'll go 24-21 Giants.
23-13 Giants will win this week. Get on the board.
Yeah, I think they're going to get one too.
All right, let's move over
They better.
New York's other dumpster fire of a football team, the New York Jets. Jack, your thoughts?
Yeah, what can you, or, you can't say anything much about the product on the field. They were never competitive with an Arizona Cardinals team that's been terrible for a couple years now. But they've got a quarterback in Arizona that they believe in and is pretty talented. And DeAndre Hopkins did his damage. It was never close. It's one of those NFL games where the Jets lost 30-10, and it was not as close as the score indicates. And they never really had a shot. Flacco just dinked and dunked all the way down. Jamison Crowder caught a couple balls. There's not much to write home about. But Mekhi Becton didn't play, thankfully, and nobody got hurt. The post game, Le'Veon Bell came back. He got the ball 16 times. He actually averaged 4.6 carry. After the game, he refused to answer questions from the media and then spent the next 36 hours on social media liking tweets criticizing Gase for using Bell incorrectly and then complaining why he wasn't used in the passing game. So with 2 weeks left to the deadline, and then Gase had to say something at the press conference today. So it's another shit show with Le'Veon Bell. Someone tell me or explain to me why Adam Gase is still in the building. I get that there are no grand benefits to getting rid of him now, but aren't there worse things that you can do? I mean, I don't know if you can degrade this franchise anymore, but just get him out of there. I mean, it's just – if it's not one thing, it's another. I mean, Greg Williams get out of there. I mean, just the penalties alone. I mean, they need an exorcism again from every single part of that organization as usual.
With there now being two head coach firings in the NFL, do you think now that makes it easier for the Jets to just make a call next week if they lose again and just be like, all right, we're done?
I mean, I thought that was the case when the first guy got canned, when Bill O'Brien got fired. I thought that would make it easier for the Jets to say, okay, it's firing season, let's go. Yeah, you'd think another firing would send them that way, but it's Monday night, we're taping, and, there wasn't a peep out of Florham Park today that anything was going to happen, and I don't think that it's going to. I mean, he's done – obviously this is his last year – probably as a head coach anywhere in North America, but why postpone the inevitable? I hate when teams do this. You knew it wasn't working in week 7 of last year. I would have fired him then. You know what I mean? Sunk cost, just let him go. And then the other thing was that Le'Veon Bell did come back and play this week, and so did Frank Gore. So I think the Jets had 63 snaps on offense. And Le'Veon Bell got 40-something, and Frank Gore got the rest. 3rd round rookie speed power back out of the University of Florida, LaMichael Pirine, did not set foot on the field again. So we're 0-5 in a week 5, and we got a young rookie tailback that we want to see, and instead they played a 38-year-old and a guy who we're desperately trying to trade for a bag of footballs and a 5th rounder.
At least Kalen Bellagio isn't there anymore to take up 2 carries.
Not there to hurt my feelings anymore. Wasn't there. Quinn Williams did nothing. I mean, they just don't.
Hey, at least he got off those gun charges, though. So,
yes, he did. More free. Dismissed. I love that his answer was that I did not know that you couldn't bring – sorry for the double negative there – that bringing a loaded gun through the metal detector was something that the airport was going to frown upon.
Was that wrong?
No, I mean, I blame that on a University of Alabama education more than on anything else. And I'm using education loosely here. But yeah, there's just nothing. They're going through the motions. They've been going through the motions for 2 weeks now. They'll be going through the motions till the end of the year. We need a new coach, and I'm excited to see who it is. I'm really coming around on Bieniemy. It seems to make sense. But
is Darnold out again this week?
Probably. I mean, why would you rush him back when it's a throwing shoulder thing? Now, the reason he'd get rushed back, of course, is that Adam Gase would want to save his job. But does anyone think that the Jets are more likely to win with a slightly injured Darnold in there than you are with a slightly injured Flacco in there? I feel like the odds are even. So we shall see.
The media seems to now be turning against Gase, at least a little bit more publicly, because I saw with that Twitter comment that Gase made at today's press conference about Le'Veon Bell. I saw the Beats, chief among them, the chief raconteur, Manish Mehta from the Daily News, mentioning that nobody talks more smack behind the scenes or behind somebody's back
About
than
his players
Gase
and Gase.
about his own players. So it seems like the seas may be getting foamy, waves are getting rough, and maybe that's the last nail that needs to be put into the Adam Gase coffin.
Meta annoys me. I don't want raconteur from my beat reporters. You know what I mean? I want raconteur from my columnists.
He's a rabble rouser.
Yes. From my beat reporter, I want to know who got the snaps at tailback in the first string today.
It's a Daily News thing, because I think that the beat guy, Pat Leonard for the Giants, is also a rabble rouser too.
Yes,
so maybe it's a Daily News angle.
And while pro football in New York sucks, I will say that the best thing that happened this weekend occurred in the Las Vegas Raiders game when I don't know if you guys saw this, but I can never remember which Carr it is. Derek Carr, right?
Yeah.
David Carr was the older. It's Derek Carr now.
David Carr won a Super Bowl with the Giants.
Yes. Derek Carr was trying to change a play as the play clock ran down, and he went up to the line with his newest audible, Bruce Springsteen, and actually changed the play to a run and got some yardage on it. So that I'm thinking about becoming a Raiders fan. John Gruden, a well-known Springsteen guy, but to hear a quarterback actually yelling that as an audible was a lot of fun. So
interesting, most interesting thing that happened in football. It seemed like everybody was united around Alex Smith being served up as a sacrifice to the LA Rams and Aaron Donald. Boy, did a feel-good story that went horribly wrong. At least he didn't get hurt. But
he got sacked 6 times.
In front of his family, his whole entire family there to witness him get sacked.
I mean, his other leg, could get hurt too, guys. This is not a good idea. But
all right, speaking of LA, the Jets travel out to the Sunshine Coast to take on the Chargers this week. Let's get to predictions, Jack.
The Chargers are playing right now. Justin Herbert looks he looks good for a rookie. He can make the throws. That defense has so much talent on it, but they just don't know how to play defense. None of that will matter. They will easily take out the Jets 24-10.
Matos?
I say I'll go a little bit further north, and I'll say 27-10, I think.
And I'll keep going on that trend. I think Jets are a real threat to go 0-16 here. Chargers 38, Jets 10.
All right. Well, at least we can agree that 10 points is a nice even round number that they're capable of scoring.
The ceiling for the Jets.
Yes. The ceiling is the roof. All right. Are we done talking about the nonsense that is the NFL?
Close the book.
Yeah, let's move on to baseball. Yanks fall to the Rays.
Nope.
As a resident Yankee fan, I'll take this. The Rays are just a better team. Bottom line, they're just a better team. Yanks just weren't good enough, specifically in the bullpen. They lost Tommy Canley mid-year, which is weird to say in a 60-game season. But when they lost Tommy Canley, that really just killed him. He was their best bullpen arm after Chapman and Britton, and they really had nothing left, hence going to Chapman in the 7th inning of Game 5. But just some really boneheaded decisions by Aaron Boone in that series that really bothered me. Game 2, something I've never heard of, and I hope I never hear of again. Telling a guy who wasn't expecting it, hey, you're only expecting to start a game, and you tell him the last second, hey, you're only pitching 1 inning. And then J Happ, you're coming in a second. J Happ wasn't into it. Clearly didn't work. Just completely blew the momentum the Yankees had in the series. They end up losing Game 2. That was the killer in my mind. Who knows if they just go with traditional starter, instead of trying to outrage the Rays, with a clever opener. Who knows if they just go with one of those guys as traditional starter, what happens? But I would have liked to see it rather than that just asinine decision. And then Game 5, I don't understand the lineup choices Boone continued to make. Clint Frazier was just an absolute star this season. Came out of nowhere to just be, an absolute stud. Can't even get in the lineup in Game 5. They just keep going to Gardner. Although Gardner had a decent playoff run, he hit I think 380. So all singles. And when the only way you're going to score is with a home run, you got to maximize the home run hitters in your lineup. And doing that means putting Clint Frazier in the lineup every day. But they didn't do that. And then to make matters even worse, he pinch hits for Higashioka in Game 5 and goes to Mike Ford, who hasn't had a hit since August 31st. I think he had one playoff at bat prior to that. Leaves Frazier on the bench. Just an asinine decision again. There's a righty on the mound. We got to put up a lefty. No, you don't. You put up your best hitter and see what happens. So, not much I can say. Yanks, same thing every year now. They just can't hit in the playoffs. They live and die by the home run. Not sure it's the wrong strategy because the Rays only scored hitting home runs too. But bottom line, pitching wasn't good enough. Bullpen wasn't good enough. Chapman is another concern going forward. He seems to think he still throws 103 miles an hour when he's only throwing 98, 99 now. Guys aren't afraid of his fastball anymore. And apropos of the way it ended with Brousseau, who Chapman almost killed in August in the series
Revenge
home run. So
revenge is Brousseau.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's because same old story, getting used to it.
Baseball's a funny game sometimes, of all the guys to all the pitchers.
Yeah.
I think you said it best when you said the Rays are just better than the Yankees.
Yeah, they're just a better team.
They're the reason why they were my World Series pick from the AL. They're a well-run organization with, from top to bottom, a singular focus and philosophy in how they approach the game. They do have some wacky ideas like the opener type thing, but
it works.
And they use a lot of platoons as well in the field, but it
shift.
all works.
They're better managed.
It's true. It's true. With a very young manager who's been there for a little bit, but he came on as a young guy. I think he was only 35 or 36 when he got hired, and Kevin Cash. They're just a really good team. Great starting pitching that they've acquired, over the years. Great bullpen, great defense, and timely hitting.
Yeah,
good team.
I mean, they make these trades. Like they picked up, Rosarena from St. Louis. I mean, who the hell is this guy? And all of a sudden,
never heard of him.
Ball, 25-year-old Cuban. Now the Cardinals have traded him to St. Louis. I mean, him to Tampa, and Luke Voit to the Yankees, who led majors in home runs, I believe.
They traded Tommy Pham away a year before he had a career year to Tampa as well. So
I'm not sure what they got for Pham, but they got nothing for Rosarena and Voit, who are now two of the better players in baseball.
Well, I'm rooting for the Rays because Kevin Lau is the greatest player in Maryland baseball history, since there's not much Maryland baseball history to speak of. So go Lau.
Yeah, I hate the Rays, but I'm 100% rooting for the Rays. Up 2-0 now. We're taping this. What is this, Monday night?
They did win today.
100% behind the Rays. Anybody but the Astros.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Astros getting great starting pitching in these first two games, but just not doing enough hitting to be able to get anywhere.
So I'll leave it there on the Yanks. I got a lot of thoughts moving forward, but we'll kick off a big hot stove show here coming up soon. So I'll save my 2021 Yankees thoughts.
We'll call that the Uncle Stevie celebration show because they're saying soon after the World Series is finished, Uncle Stevie will be approved as owner of the Mets.
Take over.
Well, that'll be because Chief among it. They got to, not to get into it, but they got to re-sign LeMahieu. I wouldn't be surprised if Uncle Stevie makes a big run. First move makes sense. Try and steal someone from the Yankees.
I don't know where the hell they would play him if they. I'd love it, but I don't know where the hell they could play him if they sign him.
LeMahieu?
What are you going to – they can't move the corpse of Robinson Cano off second.
Well, I just
can't play him at first. I don't know where the hell they're going to play him.
They'd find some place to play him.
Theoretically, yes, but I don't know where that would be.
Won't Robinson Cano be a DH next year?
If there is still the DH, yes, but the Mets are the team of 5,000 DHs, so that spot is jam full.
That's what I do. Yeah, go steal Yankees. Sign Tanaka and sign LeMahieu.
Oh, you can have Tanaka. But anyways, let's save that for the hot stove. All right, boys. I've been waiting a long time for this.
Finally here, baby.
We are 12 days away from the Big Ten kicking off. We'll give you a quick preview of some of our favorite teams. Again, Penn State. Matos and I, diehard Penn State fans, and Jack roots for Maryland and Rutgers. That's funny when you say it out loud.
the
So, all right, boys.
black sheep of
Guys,
the black sheep of the conference.
I taped together an undergraduate degree, and I did it wearing red, black, and white. So what can I say? Okay.
We should do this preview show as if you combined Maryland and Rutgers
Yeah.
into
One team. They'd still go 2-6 this year. They'd absolutely go 2-6. Absolutely.
I love it. Okay, so let's leave. We're going to leave schedules. We'll get into our official predictions next.
Although, let me say, did you guys see the opening weekend schedule?
I did, yeah.
Weekend was nice for us. We've got it spread out. I think it's Rutgers at noon, Penn State at 3:30, and then Maryland Northwestern. Maryland at Northwestern is the
Prime
first night
time.
game.
Prime
Much appreciated.
Prime time. So thank you
for the cap to East Coast bias there from
not
from the
Jim
Big
Delaney
Ten.
anymore, but yes, ECB appreciates. If you guys could do that every week, give us one at 12, one at 3:30, one at 7 or 7:30. That'd be fantastic.
We would appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, Matos. 2020 Penn State. New offensive coordinator. Stole from Minnesota, Kirk Soraka.
Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk. What unit? A lot of talent back on this team. We lose Micah, unfortunately. Opting out, can't blame him. He's going to go make millions and millions and millions of dollars in the NFL and be an absolute star.
Still hanging around the team too
for many years. Yeah, he's a Penn State guy through and through. But I'm happy for him. No hard feelings anyway, shape or form.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, he was terrific to watch for 2 years. But when you look at this team, which unit are you most excited about?
Most excited about? How could you not be excited about these running backs? I mean, it's almost become, from I don't want to say it's not linebacker you anymore, but I mean it's almost become like running back you.
Absolutely.
They're just a factory churning out consistently great running backs. And Journey and Noah Kane are two outstanding running backs. I really can't wait to see. I hope Kirk Soraka has some very inventive ways to use the both of them evenly, maybe even get them on the field at the same time. But I mean that's an outstanding group of personnel with depth even beyond those two.
Yeah, I mean you haven't even mentioned Devin Ford, who probably starts at
Devin
half
Ford
the teams in the Big Ten are third.
Devin Ford was a 5-star recruit, wasn't he?
Yeah,
this is what Penn State is now. I mean, they just got their running back heavy. Great running backs are leaving. They can't hold on to all these running backs because there's not enough snaps to go around. And it's not hurting the recruiting. They're still getting these guys to come in, too.
True freshman Keziah Holmes from Florida is going to be an absolute stud, early enrollee. Can't wait to see him. Expect him to be opening at kickoff returner.
With the veteran offensive line, there's no reason this can't be the top running game in the entire country.
Absolutely. Veteran offensive line, Bennett coming back, fifth-year senior. I mean, you just don't get a lot of fifth-year seniors in college football anymore. Huge to get him back at the center position. And then I say that, and you also got Wolf Fries at one tackle spot, another fifth-year senior, Rasheed Walker. We got our new offensive line coach from Boston College, who's supposedly really good. I can't wait to see what he's going to do with Rasheed Walker, redshirt sophomore. Kid's just going to be an absolute stud, future, top first 3-round pick, I should say. But then, Miranda, Thorpe, filling it out of the guard spots. This is an offensive line. I mean, we've been waiting a long time for Penn State to have a top-notch offensive line. I think this is finally going to be the year. I mean, their second five, guys like Des Holmes, Caden Wallace, the redshirt freshman, their second five at the offensive line, probably in years past is a better five than guys we had starting.
Well, I'm sure their second five would walk in right now as a unit and start as a unit for both Maryland and Rutgers.
Absolutely true.
I don't think you could sneak one guy in from Maryland past that.
Absolutely. So I totally agree with you, Matos. If this is not one of the
don't forget Fryer
5 running games. Too. Yeah, absolutely. But if this is not one of the top 5 running games in the nation, we got a problem because they are absolutely loaded in a way they have not been in the past. And then, Jack, you mentioned Freiermuth, huge. We were almost positive he was going to opt out along with Micah. He's being talked about as a first or second round pick. he's just, I mean, from the moment he stepped on the field as a true freshman, he's just been an absolute stud. And I cannot wait to see what he does this
I've
season.
never wanted the Jets to draft a tight end more in my lifetime than I want the Jets to find Pat.
You don't have visions of Kyle Brady and Kyle Brady redux, Penn State tight ends?
No, Pat Fryermuth can catch and block, two things that Kyle Brady was sadly lacking in skills.
Yeah, Brady could block. He played in the NFL for
for a long time. He could block
years.
a little bit.
He could
The
block.
ninth pick, he was the ninth pick. They got a blocking tight end with the ninth pick overall. Come on.
The H is O for Fryermuth because that I don't know who else is going to be catching the ball. The wide receivers are just a big group of question marks.
Anybody?
Another place where Penn State low key has been able to turn out top quality talent into the pros.
Huge recruiting misses the past couple of years. Number one wide receiver in the nation this year is playing at Ohio State as a true freshman instead of playing at Penn State. So they've just had some huge misses. But I agree, Matos. The offense will come down to, can they get a couple of these wide receivers to step up? They've got talent, guys like Daniel George, Cam Sullivan-Brown, Jahan Dotson as a junior has been a solid player his first couple of years. But word out of camp is that two true freshmen, one Keandre Lambert-Smith from Hampton, Virginia, who early enrollee is supposedly just turning heads left and right. And then Parker Washington, who's a slot receiver, true freshman out of Texas. Weird that we got a guy out of Texas, but great to have him in Happy Valley. Are supposedly just making plays left and right in a way that we haven't read about for true freshmen in many, many years. So hopefully one of those guys can step in because, Jahan is solid slot receiver. They just need one other guy to step up at receiver. If that happens, I think they can have a lights out offense.
I agree with you. And, this all goes without mentioning Sean Clifford at quarterback who yeah, hey, look, I like him a lot. Obviously, he has to grow a little bit. It wasn't a perfect year last year. Not the greatest arm on the face of the planet, but certainly good enough to win, and no excuses with this offensive line and this running game for him this year. So he really needs to be competent. I don't want to call him a game manager because I think they're going to rely on him a little bit more than that. But there's no reason. He's absolutely set up for success. Needs to be a big year for him this year.
I agree. You like him a little more than I do, but with this talent on offense, if he can't put it together this year, it's just not meant to be. But I like him enough that I think he's going to have a really good season. I'm huge on the new OC Kirk Soraka. I mean, how could you not be after he torched us, leading the offense at Minnesota last year? I remember watching that game, Matos, you and I were saying, man, we need an offensive coordinator like this guy. Then somehow it works out that.
And then we got
he is our offensive coordinator.
And he's a former Rutgers assistant of all things because PJ Fleck was a Rutgers
guy. Great talent back home. But yeah, man, this offense is just loaded. And if we can get one wide receiver to step up, I think it could be a really fun season on the offensive side of the ball.
Who does Penn State open with? They should come out in the wishbone for the first quarter.
Indiana.
A tricky.
All right, let's flip over to the defense. And your favorite position group is the running back position, which is a great choice. Mine is the defensive line. Talk about loaded. This defensive line is loaded. Shaka Toney back as a redshirt senior. Antonio Shelton and PJ Mustapher, two stud defensive tackles, and then New Jersey's own Jason Owa. I mean, again, we talk about the training camp reports. It's the same thing on the Penn State message boards, but this kid Jason Owa is testing off the charts. He's up there with Micah Parsons in terms of athleticism, and supposedly he's putting it all together in camp. You saw the flashes last year. Big guy, 6'5", 250, the defensive end position. But, if he can't put together, I mean, this is a guy you're talking about as a future first-round pick. That's how good he is.
Where is he from? Is it Jersey?
He's from Jersey. I don't know where exactly.
North Power, South Power? I was wondering.
I think he's a South Jersey guy, but
I
I'm
think he's a
not.
South Jersey guy as well.
I'll
The
get the
front
info on
seven, the front seven is going to be uh, as good as it usually is. Look, you lose Micah
it.
Parsons, you're never going to replace that.
It's
So that's
hard.
a big
It's hard
that's a
to look
big
at this
hole.
depth chart and imagine Michael Parsons in here, but
But they're
it is
still
what it
pretty
is.
strong in the front seven. The back end has a lot of question marks, guys that have played but haven't really made much of a mark. Three Castro Fields came in as a heralded
Yeah,
prospect.
had a
Hadn't
great
really lived
had
up
a
to
great
it.
beginning to his career, but he's really struggled since then.
We were wrong on both counts. Jason is from Hackensack, New Jersey. He's a North Jersey guy.
I Jason Blairstown. Did I see that wrong? Jason Owa?
Yeah,
He went to high school in Blairstown, but was
He went because
born
he
in
went to Blair
Hackensack.
Academy. He's from Hackensack. There we go. Went to
So,
the answer's
so the
back
back
end,
end,
sack.
I don't know.
See? There you go.
I don't.
You should put somebody in Hackensack Hospital. We can go all day. All day.
They weren't really great at stopping anybody passing wise last year. I
Yeah.
don't know that it necessarily
As
gets any
evidenced by
better
the
this year.
Minnesota game.
But it might get better. These guys are
Yeah,
experienced.
I'm more excited. Yeah, because we got Keaton Ellis, who's a State College high school product. Played a lot as a true freshman. I think he's gonna really turn into a player for Penn State. When you pair him with Tariq Castro Fields, yeah, it's just which Tariq is going to show up this year. Is it going to be freshman Tariq, or is it going to be sophomore and junior Tariq? Let's hope for freshman Tariq, and lights. The sky's the limit for the secondary. And then my man Lamont Wade, one of the biggest recruits in Penn State history out of I forget where, but he's out of Pittsburgh area. 5-star recruit, committed to Penn State late in the process. He's had an up and down career, but he really came on last year and showed the talent that made him a 5-star recruit. So he was a guy who a lot of people thought was going to go off to the NFL. It's nice to have him back. So you got 2 senior safeties, Lamont Wade, Jaquan Brisker. So you got 3 seniors, starting in your secondary. That's key. And then the linebacker position, Brandon Smith is the next great linebacker, another Virginia product. We saw him last year with just some incredible hits.
Oh man, he lays the
You're
boom.
only thinking that.
I think I might be most excited for that this year. It's just him laying the boom.
I'm really excited to see what he does. I mean, you can only imagine he spent the whole offseason in the weight room just getting stronger. He's gonna really hurt some people this year, not in an illegal way. But I worry about the rest of the linebackers. Ellis Brooks, Jesse Luketa, they're just okay. They really struggle in pass coverage. So we got a couple young guys. Curtis Jacobs is another true freshman, 5-star linebacker. Lance Dixon out of Michigan is a redshirt freshman, really slender guy. Hopefully he's put on some weight. I worry about the linebacker position with Micah opting out, that they're just, because look, this is it. This is the year. This is the year we've been waiting for.
Yeah, this is all.
So when I say I'm worried about them, I'm worried about them, and it really all comes down to one thing: playing Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm
So how do you
worried
guys-
about if they're good enough to beat. They're good, but
Right.
I'm worried if they're good enough to beat Ohio State.
How do you guys feel about that game being in week 2 instead of in the middle of the season? Do you think that helps Penn State, hurts Penn State, makes a difference at all for anybody?
They're both. It's the same advantage, disadvantages for either team. So I don't.
I'd rather get them early.
I wish I could get into it a little bit more, get into the season a little bit more.
I disagree. I'd rather not have Ohio State have 7 weeks to warm up, you know what I mean, and get coached up, and maybe they do.
I don't know. It's hard to
something
say, because we got, again, we got a new offensive coordinator. So do we need time to gel our offense together?
Yeah, but with that veteran offensive line, I mean, that you don't need much gelling to say go maul, you know what I mean? Well,
No, I agree. I could argue it either way. I really don't know. I could argue it either way. I guess
if we win, it'll be the greatest thing
Right.
season, because it's when it's the season could be over in week 2 for the expectations that we have for this team.
So, but can Penn State lose that game close and come back and I mean, they can still finish second in the Big Ten, right?
Yeah, they can't make the championship, but they could.
Yeah.
Oh, because there's still
Okay.
divisions in the Big Ten this year.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're still in the East. So.
I'm so used to. I had to learn all the new ACC rules when the Irish slipped into the conference for a year. They eliminated divisions. I forgot Big Ten's still doing divisions.
Yeah. Pretty much the season is over if they lose that game. So
unfortunately, though, this whole division thing where they're going to play their cross the same team in the same position in the standings, Rutgers and or Maryland's going to get screwed because they're trying to avoid duplicate games. So I just see this.
Yeah, but that's like a bowl game, isn't it?
Sort of, but I just see someone's going to have to play up a seed, you know what I mean, and end up going on the road to some much improved Minnesota game just so they can get blasted by 40 again. Because Rutgers Maryland's already the last game as it should be every year, blah, blah, blah. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. But to close out the defense, the guy to watch out for, Joey Porter Jr., cornerback that is the son of the famous Joey Porter. We're again reading the reports out of camp is that, this is a kid who could really come on this year and play some meaningful minutes. So I'm excited to see him. I always love those famous players.
He'll get some play on the boundary, I predict.
I mean, his father, certainly was a hell of a defensive football player. So, he comes in well-schooled.
What's the trap game? Penn State have one this year? You guys looking at anything? Or who's the second toughest? Obviously, Ohio State's the game that matters.
Michigan. I don't know.
Iowa is always a trap game.
I don't know that Michigan will be that good again.
There really shouldn't be one. I mean, it's if this team lives up to expectations, I mean, they should win. I don't want to go. I'll save my official predictions for next week, but I expect them to be able to play with everybody, and it just comes down to Ohio State.
I just wanted somebody to say Rutgers was the trap game, just to amuse the other co-hosts of ECB.
Sorry,
no, couldn't possibly.
Sorry. Love you, but no.
This is it. I mean, everything you look at, we got our kickers. Our kickers are back. You got the dynamic duo of Pinniger under 50 and Jordan Stout, who hit the 57-yarder last year. We did lose Blake Gillikin, our 4-year starter at punter, but apparently Stout is a pretty good punter as well. There's no weakness on this team. I mean, every year you come in and you say, man, if only we had, linebackers this year, if only we had a defensive line this year. But really, I mean, I guess you could say the wide receiver position, but they've got talent there, and I expect this guy Soraka to come in and really get these guys going. I think they've got a lot of just guys who were really just underperforming under the previous offensive regime. There's just no weakness on this team.
Even saying the wide receivers are deficient or big question marks, I guess you'll give them the most credit to start out the season. They still have Freiermuth to catch the ball, so it's not
Freiermuth. I mean, we haven't even talked about the other tight ends. I mean, they got Zach Kuntz, who's a stud. Putting it together, guy came in. I think he was He's 6'7" tight end. He came in about 200 pounds, so he's finally bulked up to about 250. This should be the year where he comes on. And then we got Theo Johnson, who was the number 1 tight end recruit in the country. Coming in 5-star out of Canada. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some playing time behind Freiermuth this year. So we're absolutely loaded. We can't even get our tight ends on the field. We got so much talent there. So I agree with you. I mean, the offense is surely going to run through Freiermuth and the running backs and
tailbacks. Yeah.
And it just comes back to, you hope these reports you're reading about these true freshmen. It's tough, especially the wide receiver position, when they're basically playing against, no competition in high school, and all of a sudden they get in the Big Ten and they got cornerbacks who can actually cover them. It's really hard for freshman wide receivers to come in and make their mark early, but you just have to keep your fingers crossed and hope one of them does it. And if that's the case, it's going to be a special season for Penn State.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Like I said, we'll get into our official predictions next week. You'll see how we all picked the Ohio State game. I think where we're leaning on the others, but it all comes down to that Ohio State game. Let's move over to some other teams in the Big Ten. Let's talk some Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
The Fighting Shianos.
Jack, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll just say that if you're looking for in-depth Rutgers football coverage that is not part of a large media conglomerate, this is the depth and level you're looking for here. You're not going to find this anywhere else. Matos, why is Johnny Langan still listed as a quarterback? Why? Yeah, there's excitement in Piscataway. Greg Schiano was back. He was literally the only man for this job. There was literally only one human being on the face of the earth that Rutgers coulda, shoulda, woulda hired for this job. It was Greg Schiano, and they got him. Although he was not able to get his same house back, the guy would not sell it back to him because he enjoys living there. So I think that's funny that the Schianos will be living down the street from a house that they custom built for themselves like 10 years ago. This is a development year, right? I don't think we're worried about results. I wouldn't be shocked if we went 0-8. I would be, if they won 2 games, I would be so pleasantly surprised. This is the year that Schiano finds out what they've got on the field, who's going to stick around. And then he's got to make that all-important decision, the quarterback. So Schiano refused to put out a roster until today. So no one knew who was on the 2020 football roster literally until this morning. And he hasn't made a decision at quarterback. It's going to come down to Artur Sitkowski, so a Jersey kid, who, incredibly enough, lost his starting job at Old Bridge High School, transferred to Florida so that he could play at the academy down there. IMG, lost his job at IMG, and then transferred back to Old Bridge. He was recruited by Miami, amongst other programs. So obviously he was somebody that people wanted. But I was just thinking to myself, like, if you can't quite hold on to the job at Old Bridge High School in Old Bridge, New Jersey, like, are you a Big Ten starting quarterback? So Sitkowski,
he plays like the guy who couldn't hold on to the Old Bridge starting job.
So the only thing Sitkowski has is an arm. He can't run. He doesn't read defenses very well. He's not quick or clever, but he does have a cannon. Unfortunately, he's also a turnover machine. He throws more picks than you can win with. Noah Vidral is a transfer. He's the other guy. I think he's likely to be the starter. He is a transfer he actually started at UCF, then he transferred to Nebraska, and now he's at Rutgers. He's got 2 years of eligibility left, and since this year isn't counting towards anyone eligibility, that makes lots of sense for Schiano because he could name Vidral the starter now and have him for 3 years, and that would set Rutgers up, right, in 3 years to be the year where they go 6-6 and make a bowl game. So it's interesting. Schiano's back.
I hope Rutgers.
Yes.
Let's go 6-6 and go for a bowl game.
One of the things that I think will be helpful for Rutgers is not having to go into some of these Big Ten stadiums with 110,000 people. I had the opportunity to go to my first ever game at the Big House for a buddy's birthday a couple years ago. We went to see Rutgers play at Michigan. Michigan won 62-0. The game was not that close. But just the atmosphere. I mean, Rutgers, you could tell from the stands when they walked out there that they were in trouble. Not having to play in front of those crowds, I think, will actually make a big difference for a young team. And I think, Schiano is one of these guys who's both a recruiter and a technician. And I really appreciate that about him. And I think we're going to be better. You want to hear the crazy stat? In the last 11 seasons, how many offensive coordinators do you think Rutgers has had?
In the last how many seasons?
11 seasons. How many
13.
different offense?
I'm going to say, something like 13. 13
Not quite that. 11. They've had 11 offensive coordinators in the last 11 seasons. Sean Gleason is the new guy. He comes from Oklahoma State. He spent only 1 year at Oklahoma State. He was the offensive coordinator at Princeton before that.
Yeah,
he turned Princeton back in.
He's a good coach.
Yeah, he is a good coach, a 1AA power. So he knows what he's doing. We got a good coaching staff. Matos, what position group about Rutgers excites you? I have an answer, and it's
anybody with a pulse. I don't really know. I guess you could say the quarterbacks because it's just been a tortured, constant search for Rutgers quarterbacks, and excitement is like you're just looking for little bumps, not even a heartbeat out of some group. I'm interested in this group of quarterbacks. Sitkowski, I think he's probably 35 years old at this particular point, so maybe this is his time to finally strike and be good. It seems like he's been there forever. But the whole team is just even more question marks than the Penn State wide receiver corps. So,
God, I
guess I got to go with that.
They are 1 deep. They're only 1 deep on half the squad. They're 0 deep in other places where they.
I'm gonna say wide receiver because of old Aaron Cruikshank.
Oh, Aaron Cruikshank is now a member of Rutgers. No, guys, the correct answer, of course, were the specialists. Adam Korsak is a Ray Guy Award finalist and the best punter in Rutgers history. And Justin Davidovitz is a great kicker who was really spot on last year and should be fine this year. So the punting and kicking game, Rutgers special teams.
Who's the punter?
Adam Korsak.
Oh.
Yeah, so a lot of the depth charts have it wrong. They've got Brocanti listed.
Yeah, I got Brocanti.
But Korsak is actually he was just named to the Ray Guy team. So unless somebody knows something that the world doesn't, I saw that too. I just assumed it was a mistake.
Man, what a diss.
I mean, Korsak was just named to the Ray Guy team, Ray Guy preseason award watch. Rutgers, the only other place where Rutgers has some depth, of course, is tailback. Isaiah Pacheco is back. He'll be the Chuba Hubbard of this Oklahoma State-like offense. Up tempo, they've got two guys behind him who can actually tote the rock a little bit. Their tight end, Matos, is Jonathan Lewis. Remember the kid from St. Peter's who was going to be the next superstar quarterback at Rutgers. He didn't even last his first year at Rutgers. He got moved to tight end, back to quarterback. He's now the tight end. I couldn't tell you who plays behind him.
I think they call it the Logan Thomas path.
Yeah, yes. The best offensive lineman opted out. Mike Lonsdorf won't even play. Now, the interesting thing is Elorm Lumor, who is probably their best pass rusher. He actually left the team, signed with an agent, entered the draft. Did not get drafted, and then was not even signed as an undrafted free agent. He got a waiver to come back. So Elorm Lumor is actually back. He is Rutgers' leading sacker over the last 2 seasons. He had 7 sacks over the last 2 seasons to lead Rutgers.
This is the start of a great sports movie, by the way. So, this will be amount to something.
People are acting like Reggie fucking White himself got a waiver to come back and join the Rutgers team with the way that the Star Ledger is treating this news. The guy had 3 sacks last year. I think 2 of them were in 1 game. So there's no talent, but I think that Chiano is going to right this ship quicker than people think. And in 5 years, the 3 of us will be booking hotel rooms in El Paso, Texas for a Sun Bowl that nobody really wants to go to, but we feel like we have to just to support the team. It should be interesting.
I look for a small scale Peichel effect with Chiano back in town. More competently managed than they have been since he left. Not much talent, but I think the playing field, pardon the pun, is a lot more even in college football than in the pros. I can see them stealing a game. I won't say 2. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. But I could see with the competent coaching staff and proper preparation going into game day and good strategy on the sidelines.
Right.
I can see them. I don't know what game it would be, but I could see them stealing a game somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, do they pick off Illinois somehow, or do they beat Maryland is the big one. I really wish, and this Maryland Rutgers ending the season with each other every year should remain an every year sort of thing. But Maryland's, they've got all sorts of problems. But if Rutgers can decide, and I think it'll be Vidral, if he's the guy and they can stick with the quarterback, yeah. I mean, Shiano is competent compared to the Ash coaching staff and what they were doing previously. I mean, this is like going from, having an 8th grade, somebody's dad on the team coaching to having professional football.
I thought you said ass coaching staff. But then I remembered ass.
Either one.
Hold on.
Ash
the
or
Ash
ass.
coaching staff was ass. Chris Ash is the defensive coordinator at Texas now. So that staff is ass as well, if anybody saw that.
It is.
The other thing
went down to Texas and became hot ass.
The other thing that Greg Schiano, hey, my wife went to Texas A&M, and they're all.
I'm just saying it's hot. That's it. It's just hot ass.
I'm agreeing with you. My beautiful wife is a prime example. The other thing that Rutgers is doing under Greg Schiano is recruiting. Literally the week that Schiano got there, they started signing guys that Chris Ash probably didn't have a chance to get. I think the most shocking anecdote I heard about Ash and recruiting in the state of New Jersey was that in the 4 years that Chris Ash was the coach at Rutgers, he never met the head coach at Bridgewater Raritan High School, which is a enormous high school about 22 minutes from the Rutgers football stadium that has been sending athletes to Rutgers in all sports for 100 years, including football. They never met. I mean, that's just an indictment of I don't know what Chris Ash was doing, but
you can't bring guys into Rutgers who don't know Jersey. That's the cardinal mistake that they've been making.
He was a fucking guy from Iowa whose best coaching job previous to Ohio State was at Drake. It made no sense. I mean, Greg Schiano knows, exactly. And the other thing is he started recruiting, and now, so last year the 2 of the 3 top recruits in the state of New Jersey both went to Texas A&M, of all places. Now, at least the top recruit in the state is this Taiwan Malone kid. He's a defensive end out of Bergen Catholic. He's got it down to his top 6. It's 5 big-time national programs, one of them, oddly, of being A&M again, and Rutgers. I mean, this is a guy who Chris Ash never, you know what I mean? He's not going to Rutgers, but the fact that he's even including them on his top 6 is a pretty big sea change in just a few months. So I'm excited to see what Shiano can do. I'm excited to be excited about Rutgers football again. I'm excited to want to go back, see some games there, see what's happening in New Brunswick. You know, Piscataway still sucks, but you know, and Greg Shiano's the guy to do it. So I'm more excited about them than I am about Maryland, because Maryland's going to be boring and bad again.
He's got to finish off what he started, upgrading the game day experience around that stadium, because it is god awful and not worthy of the Big Ten by any stretch of the imagination. It's
been a minor league experience. I saw my first Rutgers football game in September of 1995, and the experience hasn't gotten any better. They have more seats in the stadium. That's about the biggest difference. But yeah, it's just not worthy of having been to some other stadiums, including obviously Beaver Stadium, you know, which is just fucking incredible. I mean, even Maryland Stadium is better than the Rutgers experience. I mean, the field's not great. The stadium's small. There's nothing around there, unfortunately, with the way they built it. So you're right. There's a lot of things that can be done. And the other thing is the training program. A lot of guys have been losing weight on that team. You know, I'm sure that Shiano's got them in the better shape of their lives, getting towards the best shape. He brought in his own staff to do it. So I'm intrigued. I think Rutgers is going to be fun to watch because you never know who they're going to pick off. Maryland, on the other hand, as I said, is going to be boring and bad as opposed to, you know, on the come up and bad.
All right, you're on fire. Keep it going. Tell us about Maryland.
Maryland, you know, the exciting position group there is Maryland really recruits skill position players well.
Yeah, absolutely.
The last couple of years, it's been nothing. It hasn't quite been Penn State, but it's been a lot of, and I'm calling up my depth chart here. It's been a lot of good tailbacks at Maryland. Well, this year it's wide receivers because the tailbacks are all playing in the NFL. By the way, shout out to how about Chase Claypool this weekend, huh? Notre Dame guy.
Impressive week.
Only because
you're a fan of East Coast bias. I told you to watch out for him in our preview show.
Right. Anthony McFarland is also in Pittsburgh. They
had 2 guys drafted last year, Anthony McFarland, John Von Leak.
Yep, and Javon Leak.
Cut by the Giants, but 2 running backs drafted.
So this year, Tavon Fleet-Davis is still there. Jake Funk, who's had an up-and-down career, he's a local guy from Montgomery County. I think he set the Montgomery County all-time rushing yardage record, which is pretty impressive. That's a place where they still play big-time high school football. Actually, oh, no. He's not from Montgomery. Is that Montgomery County? What's his name? Who was the lefty? Zach, your quarterback. Penn State.
Zach Mills.
Zach Mills, yeah. So Jake Funk's from around that area. He left school for a year, came back, some academic issues. He'll be the backup. They've got 2 true freshmen, Penny and Isaiah. The guy's name is Penny with 1 N, by the way.
Penny Boone. Yeah, no, I think Penny is going to be the starter. I think
watch
out, 4-star recruit out of Michigan. He was highly recruited.
And
Big
Isaiah,
guy, 6'2", 240.
And Isaiah Jacobs, is the other freshman who they say is going to play. And the interesting thing about this is that, you know, Loxley's got a reputation as a recruiter. And we're talking about 2 speedy tailbacks who could really get a lot of playing time as true freshmen at Maryland. And as Christian just said, one of them's from Michigan, right? And I think the other one is from Texas. They're not East Coast guys. They're not ECBs. They're not from anywhere near there. So that says to me that, Loxley has had some success recruiting, and he's recruiting outside just the usual mid-Atlantic area that you think of, or the state of Rutgers.
Taking care of business at home because he brings in 5-star wide receiver, one of the top 3 wide receivers in the country, Raheem Jarrett out of D.C.
Yes, so Raheem Jarrett will be the star next year. He's going to play as a true freshman this year. So they've got depth at the receiver because Deshaun Jones is back after tearing his ACL. In his first game in 2018, Deshaun Jones scored on a run, a pass. He threw one for a touchdown, scored on a run and a pass. And then the other guy is Dante Demas, the junior. So they've got 2 starters entrenched there. Jarrett's on the come up. I'm sure he'll be the 3rd receiver by the end of the year. So they've got some talent on that side. Here's the thing. Also, like Rutgers, huge questions at quarterback. I can't tell you who's going to start. They haven't announced it.
Really? It's not Maryland brings in Talia Tagliavoa.
No, and Lance Legendre, who's the one holdover. Maryland has
His younger brother, though, for those who don't know, Tui's younger brother transferred from Alabama. So Loxley was with him there at Alabama, brings him over to Maryland. You don't think he's going to start?
No, I think that Legendre's got a chance to start here. I think
really, Lance Legendre, for Netflix fans out there, featured in the high school QB show, season 3, I believe.
That is
Louisiana.
That is the same Lance Legendre from Louisiana. So I don't know. Here's the thing about Talia. I'm not sure how to say his first name. Taga. He, if he wasn't good enough to win the job at Alabama over Mac Jones, who we now know is good, but this feels like a guy who went someplace his brother was playing, probably got over-recruited there, and is now going someplace where he thinks he fits in better. That doesn't tell me he's some 5. You know what I mean? He wasn't like a 5-star that is behind 3 other 5-stars.
He's a big name. That's it.
He's a name.
Literally a big name.
Is in no position to be turning down Alabama.
I was going to say though, so the Maryland quarterback position has been
they should take every younger brother of every good quarterback that comes along.
Let's not forget that in 2014 and 2015, they had to move a linebacker to start a quarterback because they lost so many quarterbacks to injury.
Steve Herbert.
A long time.
I mean, the last
good quarterback, Danny O'Brien.
Yeah, who also transferred. Remember, Danny O'Brien had one good year and then left. That's Danny O'Brien, the quarterback. Scott Milovich? No, I'm joking. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since they've been able to settle anybody there.
So that's interesting. That's some news on East Coast bias. We're all expecting Talia.
Nope, has not been named starter. We don't know. I think it's going to be a game week decision. Now, here's the thing.
Where's Piggy these days?
Oh.
He transferred, right?
He did. I want to say he went 1AA.
Western Kentucky, does that sound right? That's what's
that's 1A. That's 1A. Yeah, because he's
Western Kentucky, if I recall.
He's from the South, so that would make sense that he'd go there as opposed to Rhode Island or Maine or something.
Tough break for him. He got off to a great start. Thought he was going to be the guy.
Yeah, he looked like he was going to be okay.
Just couldn't stay healthy.
No, the kid who I really thought was going to be good, the kid from D.C. who also transferred, who tore both ACLs. Kasim Hill. I thought Kasim Hill was going to be the guy. That did not work out. Now, the problem with Maryland is on defense. I can tell you that Shaq Smith is a pretty good Mike linebacker, and I can't tell you anything about the rest of this depth chart. Because here's the thing. Mike Loxley is a recruiter. He's more Ed Orgeron than he is Nick Saban. I have no idea if this defense is any good, has any talent. Or
it can't be worse than last year. I think they had
But I think
the worst defense.
Last year, their defense was god awful.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be that bad again. Is the problem? So Maryland might score some points, but they're
going to give up some.
They're going to give up some, and they have a tough schedule. This is the Big Ten, guys. We're in the East. There's just no. And this year especially, Maryland and Rutgers can't fatten up on the likes of Middle Tennessee and the University of Rhode Island. And although.
Howard. I think Rutgers always counts on a win against Howard every year.
Would you guys like to hear the list of schools I've seen Rutgers lose to? I saw them lose to New Hampshire. I've seen them lose to Villanova. I saw them lose to Navy. I saw them lose to Army. I've seen them lose to Tulane. The list goes on and on.
Is that New Hampshire with Chip Kelly?
Chip Kelly was an assistant in New Hampshire when they beat Rutgers, yes.
No shame in that.
Yeah,
but they're a 1AA team, New Hampshire. They don't even play in the same division. Unbelievable.
All right, so who give it? We'll do our official predictions on the schedule next year, but who wins more games this year, Rutgers or Maryland?
Yeah, so I think the over-under on Rutgers is 1.5, and the over-under on Maryland is 2 or 2.5. So they're both right there. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I say Rutgers. I think they're more – ideally, they're more competently coached.
But, I mean, just based off talent alone, I'd say Maryland. I mean, Maryland clearly has more talent.
I don't want to
cheat. Just with one 5-star wide receiver, they've got more talent.
I don't want to cheat and say they're going to win. It's boring to say they're going to win the same amount of games, although I think they're both going to win one game. I like where Matos is head at. I think that Greg Schiano is that good of a college football coach. I think it's possible that Rutgers wins 1 and Maryland wins none. I'm going with Rutgers. I think that's the likeliest outcome.
Let me put it on record now. I think this is going to be a failure for Greg Schiano in his return to Rutgers. In that I don't think, I think it certainly will be an improvement over Ash or whoever was there before. but it certainly is not going to meet the expectations that Rutgers fans have.
We don't have any.
Big Ten.
We don't have any expectations. My expectation is in 4 years.
You got them going 6-6 in a couple of years.
In 3 years, maybe go 6.
Said it on tape.
Those are expectations. 6-6 in 3 years.
That's big expectations.
We're in the fucking Big Ten. I mean, I got to expect that we can shoot a whole recruiting class cycle.
Big Ten.
I know, but you schedule. That's why you get 3 non-conference games. Let's play Little Sisters of the Poor, North, South, and West, and then beat Indiana, and 2 other shit teams. I don't care about beating Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State every year, but we should be able to beat Minnesota every other season, or at least at home. We should be able to beat Illinois at home.
I understand why Rutgers Nation reacted like Bo Schembechler just walked out of his grave and came back and agreed to coach Rutgers. But I'm with you, Christian. Look, the standards are so low. Who knows what they're going to gauge as success?
He's jumping over a low
4
ball.
years down the line. But I agree with you. This all seems like it's going to be better than what they had, but it's not really going to be anything.
Yeah, you just made a ridiculous statement. Minnesota is a far, far better program than Rutgers.
It is right now. I'm saying my expectations
historically.
Was Minnesota that great in the 80s, 90s, and aughts that they should have beaten?
I'm just saying historically, Minnesota is a much better program than Rutgers.
I'm agreeing with you.
Minnesota.
What I'm saying is my expectation is that a 35,000 student undergrad, state university in the University of New Jersey should be able to beat Minnesota every other year on average. I'm not talking about Michigan or even Michigan State, but the Illinois and the Minnesotas and the Indianas of the world. Like, let's just do a little bit better. Let's knock off Michigan State every once in a while. Let's win the non-conference games, and 7-5 looks pretty good from here. That's all.
You're dinging TJ
now.
Yeah.
In the end, I'm talking about 8 years. It might take him that long. He could have a lifelong contract if he wants, but he's going to professionalize the operation so much. I think they're going to
agree with that,
buddy. But yes, I don't expect him to. People forget he never won a Big East title. Okay, we didn't go to the playoffs. It's not like we were playing in the Orange Bowl every year.
He won the Texas Bowl and they threw him a parade.
Even the most underrated college football coach of the last 25 years, Ralph Friedgen, took Maryland to an Orange Bowl. Rutgers never went that far. The win against Louisville on Thursday night is the greatest thing that ever happened to them. But if he recruits better, remember, you can win a lot of games just recruiting the states of New Jersey, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. And because Penn State has been living proof of that for 50 years of modern recruiting. If Rutgers can just keep the state of Rutgers somewhat intact, just get 25% of them, they're going to be much improved a lot quicker. None of those kids. Chris Ash was fighting the Akrons and the Central Michigans of the world for recruits. Okay, Greg Schiano's fighting Alabama and Arkansas at least.
All right, well, there you have it, folks. Big expectations for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
Right. That's right.
One win.
Can't wait. What's
the Rutgers? Well, we're 12 days away. I think you can hear it in the passion in our voices. This is when the real football season starts, at least in my opinion.
The fire is rising.
Cannot wait. It's going to be one hell of a season. Let's just pray they get it in or get most of it in. Especially because we think Penn State has a chance to have a really special season.
And I don't mean to jinx this, but I'll just say 2020 has been a pretty rough year for, I feel like, the world, United States particularly. All I'm asking for, really? There's no religion, no politics on this show, but we'll leave it at that. All I'm asking for, God, if there is such a thing, give us a Penn State Notre Dame national semifinal. It can happen this year. They're both set up to do it. One of them could even lose the game. They could end up playing each other in the Cotton Bowl instead. But this is the year we could get it. Give us ND Penn State. I don't care if even let them win semifinals and play for the national title. But it's been a long time since we got one between those two that mattered. Rutgers and Maryland have no chance to do that. That's what I want. That's what I'm hoping for.
All right. Well,
Formidable opponents lying in
That's
the way.
why they
of
play
that.
the games. But man, I can't be any
True.
more excited than I've been and than I am for this season. This is going to be fun. However it plays out,
Should be interesting.
it'll actually probably be painful and depressing, but at least from where I sit now, it's going to be fun.
Nice.
All right, boys, good show. That's it for this edition. Any shout outs?
How about to the late, great Joe Morgan, who passed away this morning? Major League Baseball stars. And while we're talking, Whitey Ford. I mean, I don't know if it's COVID or what's going on, but we have lost a lot of wonderful
There's a
baseball
lot
players.
of Hall of
Whitey
Famers
Ford
going
was
down.
Whitey Ford was
91 years old, but a great life, a great career, chairman of the board. We'll miss him. And yeah, Joe Morgan, it's funny, everyone's talking about Joe Morgan, the great player, and he certainly was probably the, greatest second baseman of all time, one of, if not the greatest. But, for me, he's the voice of my baseball youth.
Sunday Night Baseball.
Sunday Night Baseball.
John Miller.
He and John Miller were such a great team, and we see how they've struggled since then to find anyone listenable you can even remotely listen to in that booth to just point out how great those two were. It was just awesome listening to him growing up, calling baseball games. Didn't even really know at that point how good of a player he was.
Joe Morgan was a great announcer with a great voice, but he did not adjust well to the analytics era, and he was definitely rightly forced out.
Not a fan of the shift.
ESPN.
God rest his soul, but he was.
Well,
not
you know what?
The shift. Joe Morgan said
after the Yankees bowing out, here, Joe Morgan. Go back. Let's go back to
not analytics that do.
Joe Morgan said you stand on your fucking side of second base, and I'll stand on mine. And I'm
going to tell you what, we got on the list of ideas for future shows. We're going to do a baseball rules show. Talk about how to improve the game, make it more fan friendly, and that could be one up for discussion. Outlawing the shift, but no, he was a great player, great announcer. Rest in peace, Joe. I'm sorry to see you go.
My last thoughts. It is Eli Penny snap watch. Okay?
Oh,
three snaps.
A penny
week,
for Dan's thoughts.
First down though. A first down.
One away.
He got the ball.
One away from season high and tying a season high of 4 snaps in a game. He got a run. He made a first down on a 3-yard run.
Great play. That was a great play design too.
He did not play all snaps at fullback. I did see Shane Lemieux out there at least once. So, once again, what the hell is this guy doing on the active game day roster? I don't know.
All right, well, there goes our shot of having Eli Penny on a future show, but I guess we'll live with that.
Maybe I want him to come on and explain why he's on.
We'll have Ahmad Bradshaw, Eli Penny, and Rodney Hampton on in a 3-way. We'll have a long discussion.
Ahmad, man, come on. Where you at?
Where you at, Ahmad?
Great show. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our page, like this video, and we'll be back next week with another edition of East Coast Bias.